21st Council meeting to order. If you'd please all stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just to start off, a couple of announcements, being as we have quite a few in here. First off, everyone should be healthy. If you're not healthy, you shouldn't be here. The second thing is please maintain 6 feet of separation. If you can't do that, you do need to have a mask on. If it's you're sitting by someone different than your family member. And that being said, counselors, I would first entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda you have before you here tonight.
So move, Your Honor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I feel like these speakers are not working. Les, do you hear me through the speakers? You hear the speakers? Okay. I'm sorry. Could we start with a roll call, Matt?
Counselor Green.
Here.
Demas.
Here.
Tate. Here. Shalata.
Here.
West.
Here.
Savage. Halter.
Here.
Zadi.
Here.
Maricomo.
Here. Counselors, item number 3 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the City Council meeting of July 7th, 2020. I entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So move, Your Honor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, counselors' appointments section of our agenda, the 2020 City Council Standing Committee appointments that we had made, and after some discussion and due to a couple of conflicts, I have made changes to the council standing committees in regards to liaisons only, and those changes would be on the council liaisons to appoint Tim Savage to serve on the Regional Airport Board, where we had Councilor Zadi, Councilor Savage to serve as our liaison to the Insurance Committee, where we had Councilor Zadi, and to put Councilor Zadi to serve on the URA Main Street board, so they could make those meetings where it more works with their schedules. Counselors, everything else stays the same. I'd entertain a motion to approve the changes to the council liaisons.
So moved, Your Honor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second has been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so everybody else stays the same, and you will then start to get information for your corresponding positions on the committees or as liaisons. And Councilor Savage is not here, but I'm sure he's already had an airport meeting. This is going to bring us to our presentations and proclamations section of our agenda, of which we have a very exciting presentation here. And I have to apologize because due to the craziness in our lives, it's been quite some time. We'd like to do this earlier, but this all happened in the midst of when COVID came upon us. And that is Commander Bill Erspamar, Rock Springs Police Department, FBI National Academy graduation. And on March 13th, 2020, Operations Division Commander Bill Erspamar graduated from the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. The 279th session of the National Academy consisted of men and women from 49 states and the District of Columbia. The class included members of law enforcement agencies from 32 countries, 5 military organizations, and 8 federal civilian organizations. Internationally known for its academic excellence, the National Academy offers 10 weeks of advanced communication, leadership, and fitness training. Participants must have proven records as professionals within their agencies to attend. On average, these officers have 21 years of law enforcement experience and usually return to their agencies to serve in executive level positions. FBI Director Christopher Ray delivered remarks at the ceremony along with class spokesperson Jason DeMarco of the West Wago, Louisiana Police Department. FBI Academy instructors, special agents, and other staff with advanced degrees provide the training. Many instructors are recognized internationally in their fields. Since 1972, National Academy students have been able to earn undergraduate and graduate credits from the University of Virginia, which accredits many of the courses offered. A total of 52,795 graduates have completed the FBI National Academy since it began in 1935. The National Academy is held at the FBI Training Academy in Quantico, the same facility where the FBI trains its new special agents and intelligence analysts. Bill has been with the department for 16 years and has worked as a patrol officer, a street crimes investigator, a patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, and commander of the tactical team. Bill is the 8th member of the department to graduate from the FBI National Academy, the first of which was Bob Overy in 1982. Can you remember that? Shalata's the only one that shakes his head. But congratulations on your achievement, Commander. On behalf of the City of Rock Springs, we thank you and are proud of your accomplishments, and much apologies for the delay. Bill actually went down there right when this was all hitting us, so he's put up with quite a bit. And I believe his wife Jordan is here today, and daughter Allie. But if we could, Chief Pacheco, you want to say a few words?
Counselors, Your Honor, never short for words. I would just like to say that 78 sessions ago in 2000, I attended the 201st session and graduated, and it was my pleasure to nominate Bill to attend the National Academy, and he was, within 9 months, he was accepted, so that tells you what kind of record he has. 1%, less than 1% of law enforcement executives attend or are selected to attend the FBI National Academy, so it's a very prestigious academy, and he's already initiated a lot of what he's learned, what he, and a lot of the contacts he made there have helped us out through this COVID situation, so we're already reaping the benefits of him being gone for 10 weeks, which I know it was tough for him to be away from his family, but well worth it. And our leadership, in law enforcement, is in good hands with Bill up and coming. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Commander, I'd ask you if you want to say a few words, but maybe Jordan and Allie would like to say some words. I'm tired of this stuff. But Commander, please, if you'd like to say a few words, the microphone is yours.
So no, I don't have anything really prepared to say. Get the opportunity to
Well, you're not only a great commander, you're a great person. From the time that I've worked with you, just outstanding person and family. So if we could get you to come down, we can bump elbows or things like that. But we'd like to take a picture. Jordan and Allie, you're welcome to come down if you would, and we'll take a picture. This reads United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, William Michael former Rock Springs Police Department, Rock Springs, Wyoming, has completed a general course of instruction ordered by the FBI National in the state of Virginia. Outstanding. One of our own, and great to be a part of that, and proud of all of his efforts. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 2 under presentations. And item number 2 is a group KW commercial. The building committee and I have been looking at opportunities to market the First Security Bank and set us up for phase 2. KW commercial is going to give us an idea of what they can do for us in our hopes to retain an anchor tenant and market that building. And I'm going to turn that over to Steve and Cody at this point. And afterwards, maybe some Q&A by the council on just what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we can go from here. So, Cody?
Thank you so much. I'm Cody Watts, and this is Steve Tobias. We are with KW Commercial and Untitled Realty, and we are delighted to be invited here to this evening to discuss the historic restoration of 502 Main Street, brimming with restaurants and businesses. There's some key questions that we're going to be answering in our presentations. Number 1, why should you hire our team? What should be the lease rates for the office and the retail space? What will be the building? What will the building be worth after full occupancy? What is our marketing plan? And how will we find potential tenants? And how will we convert those prospects to tenants? First, I want to talk about Steve Tobias and some of his credentials. Steve Tobias has been in the real estate business for 34 years in the commercial real estate industry. He was awarded Commercial Realtor of the Year by Salt Lake Board of Realtors in 2014. He's represented restaurant representation for Arctic Circle, Taco Time, Wingers, Moochie's, and Row Brewery. In working with these franchises, Steve had to match a location to a specific demographic, and psychographic criteria was given to him. He knows not only what sources he can go to find the data and how to apply and match it to his tenant situation to achieve the successful lease. Steve has also represented office space for scores of doctors, dentists, software companies, oil companies, and churches. Steve has helped develop over $300 million in new apartment projects and over $40 million in new office projects. Myself, Cody Watts, I'm the owner of Peak Collective Real Estate Team that specializes in residential and commercial sales and leasing. I've been in the real estate business for over 13 years. In the last 7 years in a row, I've been awarded the top 1% of realtors in the state of Utah. I've successfully completed over 600 real estate transactions in my career, and I'm licensed in both Utah and Wyoming. I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors and KW Commercial that allows us a national recognition. So we have a little team. We're not a one-man show. We as a group will be working very diligently and very hard to get this space leased up and make it as profitable to the city as possible. Our team has 4 real estate agents, an operations manager, a marketing director, and an executive assistant. And in collaboration, we're going to be able to get the very best results possible. We believe in the accountability of our clients and will provide bi-weekly or bi-monthly reports of our marketing activities and progress of tenants in our pipeline. We want to make sure everybody stays up to date and you guys know exactly what we're doing to procure tenants for this building. For the 502 Main Street project, to obtain the second wave of $3 million of grant money that funds the renovation, it will require 50% of the building to be pre-leased. Therefore, as agents, we've been able to demonstrate the vision of not what the building is today, but what it will become in the future. I just want to talk about an example of one of the impressive office developments that Steve helped create from scratch. This is an example of Steve's projects requiring vision in the Jordan River Professional Plaza in South Jordan, comprising of 3 buildings of about 64,000 square feet, valued about $15 million. He was required to pre-lease and pre-sell 50% of each building prior to starting construction. So it's transformed the vision of reality from an artist's rendering and an architect's floor plans. As you can see here, we've got the concept art of what the building was going to look like. Had not been built yet. Steve had to pre-lease 50% of that building before construction even started. And in the second picture here, you can see what the buildings look like after. So we're selling the concept, selling what's the future and what's potential here. And that takes talent. So the picture on the left here was the before the development, the vacant land, and then the picture on the right is the after development of this whole giant 64,000 square feet office park that Steve pre-leased and pre-sold more than half of it before construction got started. Very impressive. I've had lots of real estate transactions as well. I have a really cool one right here. My specialty is maximizing landlords' profitability. How can we get creative? How can we maximize the net operating income? What tenants can we put in? How can we make everything more seamless and more profitable for our owners? This is an industrial park that I recently worked on. About 3 years ago, we helped our client buy this 6-tenant industrial park on 7 acres. And these 6 tenants were under leased, and they were all using the 7 acres of land as they pleased. There's no organization, there was not extra yard space charges for these tenants, and I was hired to do all the leasing here. So I came up with the idea that if we hire an engineer to lay out the yard space and get it all divided out with, and section it out to quarter acres, full acres, and just really maximize the amount of yard space so that tenants can still get access to their yard space, but then we can rent out as much square footage of industrial yard space as possible. I was able to release almost all of those buildings, put new tenants in, and fill up all of the yard space with new tenants or get some of the existing tenants to pay for the extra yard space. We effectively took this building and this property that was purchased at about $2 million, and in a 3-year period, we were able to more than double the income of this property, and we more than doubled the value. We turned this into a $4 million building, and actually had it under contract for just over $3.9 million, And then COVID happened. Some things changed, as everyone's life. But this was a really cool project I worked on that we really maximized every dollar and every piece of square footage we could. So our marketing plan includes building preparation, getting the marketing materials, getting it on all the right commercial real estate platforms, painting the vision, artist renderings of what this is going to look like to really fit the historic era of this building and give it the charm of when this building was built, and help tenants that are going to be interested in this building, retail and office tenants, restaurants, to see our vision of what this building is going to look like when it's done, and how we're going to help these tenants understand why being here in downtown Rock Springs is going to be beneficial for their business and help the community as well. So agent exposure is also very important. We are marketing this to all the top deal makers. We are marketing this to local agents within the city as well, national agents, regional. Wherever we have potential tenants and agents representing those tenants, we want to make sure that this property is in front of them and they can present this to their clients. We're also looking for end users as well. We're directly target marketing and calling these tenants that we want in these buildings. We're putting together lists and trying to put together the most probable tenants. The tenants that are gonna be profitable there, they're gonna benefit the community. Tenants that maybe don't have a presence here in Rock Springs that we can bring from other states. The great thing about our company is we have a national reach, so we can bring tenants from all different states and bring them over and show them why Rock Springs. This is where your business is gonna grow. This is why we have all the data and everything to support the marketing dollars, the sales in that demographic, and why they should be here. And then how we're gonna convert prospects to tenants. And Steve's gonna talk a little bit more about that. We subscribe to a lot of data to make sure that we can have all the facts and figures that these businesses need to make educated decisions on why Rock Springs downtown is the place for their business. So I'm gonna have Steve finish up the rest here.
Good evening. So in our building preparation, we want to be able to recommend what lease structure we should have with that building, because we have limited number of gas and power meters. We're going to be recommending that we do a full service lease, meaning they'd have a base rent plus operating expenses, and then on top of that would include the utility cost. And so as part of preparing this, we've done the research that I'll be sharing with in a moment of what our recommendation is for that lease rate, and also the tenant improvements that Landlord was contribute for that. We also prepare a great marketing flyer that will include the floor plans and the material selections. And we also will be hiring and working with our architect and interior decorator to capture the era architecture and great materials that were put in that building so long ago will be coming alive in a modern setting. We'll have all the modern convenience of elevator and heating and air conditioning and everything, but you'll also have that nostalgia that will come with the building. In doing our market research so we could make a recommendation on how we price this, we don't want to leave money on the table, but at the same time we want to be able to create some incentives, because we do need to pre-lease this. And so our first few leases we may recommend coming at a much more bargain scenario, and then once we've got the anchors that we need and qualify for that $3 million grant, then we can start going more full market cost. And so in doing our research, we determined we had 2 comparables downtown and 7 around the area. Our main floor of the building we're envisioning would be a great brewery or a restaurant or a couple of restaurants. And so in looking at retail pricing, we discovered that here in Rock Springs, we're looking at about a $15 to $19 a square foot per year rate on a triple net lease. Triple net means the operating expenses are passed through to the tenant, and they also pay their own utilities, et cetera. And in the office, which would be second floor, third floor, and possibly some of the basement space in this building, we also were able to determine by 4 comps here downtown, as well as 6 other office buildings, that the price ranges were $15 to $19 a square foot as a triple net lease in that arena as well. Due to the nature of this being remodeled, we're going to also have what we call a core and shell in the industry, where basically the building is stripped down to the perimeter walls, and then we'll be finishing the interior stairways and common restrooms. And so this is an example of a building here, 120 Winston Drive in Rock Springs, that helped us. It's a brand new building, but same condition, where you've got core and shell. If you look on the right-hand side of that, that's describing what we're talking about. You've got HVAC stubbed into the space, power to panel, you have a cement floor, and no other walls. And so from that point, these guys are offering a $40 contribution from the landlord towards that build out. And a typical office and retail build out will be somewhere between $65 and $75 a square foot on that interior. And so the tenant will have to come up with the balance of that, but we're recommending about a $40 allowance per square foot as part of that $3 million grant that we receive that would contribute to that interior build out of the tenant. So our vision for this, what will the end result be? What will the building be worth when we're all at full occupancy? And there's a commercial valuation formulas. It's net operating income divided by the capitalization rate equals the value. And so as we've looked at our net operating income, we're recommending a full service lease, but if you strip away the utilities and the operating expense, what's left would be our net operating income. And for the basement space, we're recommending around $10 a foot, and then the rest of the building at $18 a foot. We're going to be cash flowing at that point at full occupancy of $432,000 a year at a capitalization rate of 6%. That's a value of $7,200,000 that will be created by filling this building with tenants. And the side benefit of those, obviously, is we're creating and setting out a precedence of renovation that additional buildings can follow suit, which will be a magnet for additional development. Just this building alone, we're stimulating the economy. We have 50 different construction trades that will be involved in the development of that building, as well as the employees that will be working from there will be about 100 people being able to work out of that 24,000 feet. That's some great benefits. As we start our marketing, we've already created a marketing flyer. We're ready to go. This would be an example of some of the key features that we're sending out in our marketing, that it's a very unique historic property. It's got impressive stairwells and common areas. You got that nice courtyard for gatherings. And then we've got the square footages outlined, and then our rate that we're recommending. We also have included in that flyer the floor plans. The architect has already designed. The green is the common area, which would be our shared stairwells and public restrooms. And then the rest, this is the second floor, would be available for office space development. For our agent exposure, as being a part of Keller Williams, that's the largest brokerage in the United States. Residentially, we have 160,000 agents in 850 offices. And within those offices nationwide, we have 2,000 KW commercial agents, of which I'm a part. I'm the regional director for all of Utah. And we've acquired, I'll show you that in just a moment, but right now half of my income last year was generated of residential agents giving me referrals of commercial deals. And this is nationally. So I'm getting calls from a high-end businessman who's relocating to Salt Lake City. And so he has a residential agent of our company helping him find a home. And they're calling me to help them find their new office space from an oil executive. And so it works really well as part of our company. Now, we've acquired the contact information of the key commercial deal makers in our region. And we have a list of the top 50 landlord and tenant reps in the region. So here's an example of our KW commercial network that we're a part of course. And then we've acquired this list of all the top deal makers. We've got Greg Hawley there from Cheyenne, Wyoming, for example. He leased last year 162,000 square feet of office and retail. And so he will be receiving a package of Rock Springs so that he can expose his list of 1,000 clients to your specific opportunity here. And so here's the contact list. So I've got his phone number, his email, his address that we would immediately, once we get the assignment, we would get going on. And we've already acquired all of these lists. We're all set, ready to go. We're also going to be, as part of this marketing plan, exposing the property to end users. Right now, we have subscriptions to the region's major commercial multiple listing sites of LoopNet, Crixie, and CoStar. I'm spending $700 a month for those types of subscriptions. So I've got access to investors and tenants and people wanting to know. And LoopNet alone has 7.2 million viewers a month coming on that site nationwide. And so when we have people looking to expand their regional presence, we're on those sites, and they'll be able. We also have a local touch where Cody has a Wyoming license. He's able to expose this property in Wyoming's multiple listing services, again engaging those residential agents that do commercial real estate and have clients that want to do so. We've acquired the list of 180 office and retail tenants in Wyoming whose leases are expiring in the next 18 months. So this is low-hanging fruit. We also have the list of 50 restaurants in Wyoming whose leases expire over the next 18 months. Here's an example of the restaurant leases that are expiring in Wyoming and where they're located. This is, I have as an example here, Dirty Soda in Layton, Utah. This list tells me their lease is expiring August 30th of this year. They occupy 2,400 square feet, and they're paying $22 a square foot. So and they're looking for regional additional locations. And so I'm able to use lists like this to identify and key in on our possible end users.
And Steve, if I could, just so it's not so confusing there, what we're trying to do here in working with the architect and SEDC is involved, and Steve and Cody have had conversation with them, Eric and Kayla, trying to find some local interest in the like. But after taking a look at the plans and the very large open space on the main floor, I thought it would be wise to take advantage of that open space and break it up into 3 quarters, basically 1 quarter. So we had an opportunity to offer a breakfast type lunch on which would be the Broadway side area restaurant, more like a Neater's Cafe or a bagel place, coffee, that kind of thing into lunch. But on the larger portion, which would be the northern portion towards the depot, would eventually be a restaurant kitchen type of thing, and then you'd have one open all morning till lunchtime, and then other than waiting like we see normally with restaurants around here, come back at 5 when we open or whatever, then it'd be opening up later for dinner and the like, and then eventually to have seating out in Bank Court. Even some talk about eventually putting a cover over Bank Court with aluminum clad and plexiglass with garage doors on each side, where individuals could go out and enjoy dinner, breakfast or whatever, fire pit and stuff like that. So why we're talking different types of restaurants is just that, trying to capture and capitalize on a morning, noon type of restaurant, and then a dinner restaurant. So it's active all day long is what our goal was. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, very well said, Mayor. Thank you. Obviously, part of our marketing plan is how do we convert prospective people to come and be a tenant in the building. And there's really some key questions that they're asking. You know, why come here, and will I be successful if I do? And so we pay literally thousands of dollars so that we have access to technology and data that answer those questions for our prospects. And so this gives us demographic and psychographic data that establishes demand and therefore what success they may have. And I'm going to just highlight 3 of them: a demand supply gap analysis, consumer segmentation report, and a consumer trade area analysis. So on this first one, this is called a gap report, and this is for Rock Springs and Green River, and then Sweetwater County is on the end. And I've highlighted in yellow, what this does is it spreads out as a strata all the different types of businesses or industries that may have a supply and a demand gap. And the one most glaring there, and we can do this for any industry, I'm just saying this is an example. Right now, beauty, aid, and drug, pharmacy, right now in Rock Springs, based on consumer expenditure demand, is $45 million. We're only supplying $39 million. So there's a $6 million gap just in Rock Springs. We add Green River to that, is another $39 million. 18 million gap, and the county's a $33 million gap. So if I was talking to a Rite Aid or somebody like that, I would say, what kind of demand gap would get you excited? Would 33 million do it for you? Right? So we can share demand and supply gap studies. So as we kind of cherry pick our very best possible prospects, and then we do the research so that when we get on the phone with them, we've got something to talk about. Say, you know, we've got a beautiful building downtown in Rock Springs, and to boot, it's got this demand gap that we need you. And so would you consider us in your relocation or your expansion opportunities. This is called the consumer segmentation. And this is a very interesting thing. What this does is, by the use of credit cards, they have now segmented all of us into 52 different buying habit, and they've named them. So in Rock Springs, we have 5 key consumer segmentation types. 2 of them are the most prominent. They are called, and what this study does is, who's my consumer and where's the highest concentration of them, and then what are the people like that live in this area? What are their buying habits? How do they spend their recreation time? And so, as an example, this first one is called Parks and Recreation, and the second one next to it is called Bright Young Professionals. Here's some interesting things. Both of them comprise about 25% of the city's population. So total, they're 50%. The Parks and Recreation, their average age is about 8 years older than the Bright Young Professionals. In the category of net worth, the Parks and Recreation average $96,000, and the Bright Young Professional is $28,000. So next is home ownership. That explains a lot of it. 71% own homes in Parks and Recreation. Only 44% own homes in Bright Young Professional. And so if I was a CPA, I would identify, okay, I'm going to have a better opportunity. Or if I was a realtor, I'm going to have a lot better opportunity of working with Parks and Rec, because they buy homes, right? And so here's an interesting thing. I'll just end with this one. The Parks and Recreation, what they do for their recreation is they take U.S. vacations. That's where they spend their money. The Bright Young Professionals go to bars, concerts, eat fast food, and go to family restaurants. So as I'm entertaining a restaurant, I'm able to sit down with them and say, hey, we've got a quarter of our population here in Rock Springs is young professionals, and that's what they like to do when they go spend money, is go out to eat. And so here's some other cool things. We had thought about, this is called a trade analysis study, and this is for Sweetwater County. We thought maybe one of those floors of the building could be a cool outreach or extension of a college. And so by running a report on the trade analysis, of course, the biggest question is a college executive is going to ask is, what's my demand? How many kids are in their 20s? How many kids are in their 30s that can go to my school? And so we're able to show them that we have 5,400 that are in their 20s, and 6,500 students that are in their 30s that could, in Sweetwater County, come and be a part of, because they're a more regional user, right? And then we can show them by city, what's the city that has the most emphasis in spending money? And there is a difference. One city will pay up to $1,800, and one they're down at the bottom is paying $1,200 a year for education. So we can share cool stuff like that. This narrows it down. This is for restaurants. So dining out demand, I've keyed in on Rock Springs, and we can do a 15-minute drive time. And it's all mapped out. I'm able to show on this real large census tract, the average expenditure per year for dining out is $4,700 a year. where right across the way in the smaller area in Census Tract number 2, they spend $3,200 a year. So almost a $1,500 difference per family is spent on eating out. And so I can pinpoint exactly for my restaurant person, where's the best place I can go and get my best yield for marketing. That's how granular we can get with this kind of information and answers for them. You know, will I be successful? Here's a retailer's not in our 15-minute trade area with a score of likelihood of them coming to Rock Springs. And so I've got my cherry list there of they can occupy between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. That'd be a great spot for our down main floor. And it goes out 150 miles. And who's not here that should be? So in conclusion, why hire us? Cody and I feel like we are uniquely situated because of our life experience in the type of real estate that we've done over the years to be able to transfer vision, be able to get that anchor tenant so we can get the $3 million to renovate the building. We know how to use data to prove that a tenant will be successful if they do come here. And we've got a team and an effort to be able, and the resources to be able to market this. And so we are excited, and we hope that we get this assignment for you guys. So we'll open it up to questions.
Council, questions?
I've got some
Councilman
questions, I
Zadi.
guess. Question always comes up when people want to see development in Rock Springs, restaurants and that, for example. I always want like the Olive Gardens and things of that nature, you know, the big chains and everything else. Historically, it's been my understanding that most of those chains will look at population, and if you don't hit a certain population, they're not even going to consider you, say 50,000 people in a community.
Yeah.
Sweetwater County, we're sitting in the mid-40s. So is it that simple anymore, or do they consider some of the information and data that you're bringing in? So if you're looking at 40,000, what are the chances of bringing somebody in like that with our population, I guess is what.
It does factor. You know, I've worked with lots of franchises, and they have very specific demographic and psychographic information because they know by track history that if those elements are in with that location, that franchisee will be successful. And so we just have to match. You know, I mentioned on that retailers that aren't here that probably could be. They actually score them, and so the ones that are B to B plus, they're a fit for Rock Springs because they're in other cities, similar population, etc. And so it's a matter of you know, identifying a good match. But you're right. I mean, we may not be, based on our size, fit for everybody. We got to get down to the granular level. When we talk with their site selection people, we're able to understand, tell me what are the key factors and criteria that you have to have in order for you to be successful. And then we're matching our national bank building with that. And if it's a match, we've got a shot at getting them here.
That's one more question. And I mean, obviously you're here because you feel you can be successful with this project. That brings me to, what's your cost structure then? Is it a pay per performance? Is there a flat fee, or how does that work?
Okay. Our commission is based on the standard 6% commission on the lease monies that come over whatever term of lease is signed. So a simple example, if you had a lease for $100,000 on a 5-year deal, that's a $6,000 commission. And we share that, by the way, we split that 50-50 with any participating brokers. We talked about going out and talking to other major deal makers in the region. We're willing to split our commission 50-50 with them.
So it is solely pretty much commission based then. I mean, you're doing all this on a commission basis.
Yes.
So that's driving your desire to be successful.
Yes, that's
You don't
correct.
get paid if you don't perform.
We don't get paid if we don't perform.
Okay, thank you.
And we typically would be looking at a year commitment simply because we're out spending out a lot of money to hire the interior designer or working with the architect, all of our marketing materials, signage, all of that type of thing. We don't get paid until somebody signs a lease and pays money to you guys.
So our commitment would be to commit a year's time to use you exclusively for this project, or whatever the term is.
Yes.
And then that's okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilors, any other questions?
Your Honor.
Councilor West?
What kind of timeline are we needing to, I guess, go after the second phase of the grant money?
Okay, that,
Obviously, we need to get the 50% pre-leased for the anchor tenants and all that, but how long, if we move forward, do we have before we get that secured to go after the second phase?
that is a good question, and just as of this week, we're seeing the final revised plans brought forward. The mitigation of the asbestos in the buildings completed, so we're going to see contractors in phase one on site here in the next, I would say, month or so, beginning to do the work. That being said, we immediately, I've had that discussion with our legislators, we immediately need to be starting to work on the second phase of the grant, which is the business committed. We just went through the business readiness portion of the grant, and as long as I've been here, I've never seen the legislators not fund a business committed portion of a grant after they funded a business readiness. That being said, we're also concerned on what kind of funding is going to be available with all the craziness that's going on. But to answer your question, a third week in December is where we would be down at the Wyoming Business Council presenting the grant. So part of that grant requirement and why we need to consider someone to go out and market an anchor tenant is because part of that grant hinges on having what they call a letter of commitment. We have to have a letter of commitment for the grant in order to be successful with the business committed portion of the grant.
And is that something you guys feel confident that you can meet, that timeline between now and December if things get rolling?
Absolutely. I've had experience doing this my whole career.
I mean, it seems like a dumb question, but time
Well,
marches
no,
on. We got COVID. What the heck?
It's a great question because not everybody has vision, and you've got to be able to help understand what it can become and get people excited about getting involved in that.
That being said, too, Steve, and you made a great presentation, but reading several reports nationwide and in Wyoming and discussing this with some of the realtors, it seems like there's a mass exodus from large cities where they maybe just don't feel safe anymore and they want to relocate their family and their businesses to Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. And it's funny because I just traveled down the highway and we had this discussion and literally passed a half a dozen U-Hauls packed from California coming out here. And I believe it's true. And I think the real estate industry is seeing that also as people want to come back. They can set up shop, bring their business employees and be a part of a smaller community and still do well.
Absolutely.
So
It's good to see that retail gap analysis being put to work too. That was a study done a couple years ago that's just been sitting there, and
yeah,
everyone promotes or preaches rather, economic development and how do we expand, and the proof is right there. I mean, the numbers are there, so it's just a matter of, getting the right people involved to make it happen. So I was glad to see that was part of your presentation, and we'll see where it shakes out from here.
It's very powerful. It gives credence to the opportunity that we really do have here, because that's the question: am I going to succeed, and is it worth it for me to relocate my business here? And in that example, you show them, $50 million is a lot of reasons to get here.
yeah, exactly. Counselors, any other questions? I think that was a great presentation, Steve, Cody. And by all means, we've researched and tried to find options for the city. I don't see options at that level with the tools available that you folks do have. What I would like, council, if you feel comfortable with that, is maybe just to have CW work with the attorney's office and come up with some sort of a contract that we could review and take a look at to get going. Is that okay with everybody? I'd entertain a motion to do that. We're not signing a contract, but at least for our review to see if we need to tweak it anywhere and move forward with that. We really have some dates that we got to meet here, and I like the idea that CW intends to use the local realtors on that level for showings and everything else, and split commission or what? Is it? I'm sorry.
Great initials.
Okay. Okay. That's what I meant. And split their commission with some of the local realtors. So that being said, December is going to be upon us quicker than we think. We already working on portions of the Phase 2 grant, of which we'll be driving down in snowy conditions, I'm sure, as we did before on Phase 1. But we can't be asleep at the wheel on this. We got to move it forward. So, councilors, I'd entertain a motion to move forward with a draft contract for our review, and we can revise it as needed.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion to have Mr. Beckwith work along with KW to draft a contract for performance in what we discussed this evening.
Okay, councilors, we do have a motion to allow city attorney to work with KW Commercial and bring forward a draft for our review. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll be in touch. Mr. Beckwith, Cody, Steve, appreciate your time, and
Thank you guys so much.
yeah, travel safe, and we'll be in touch. Great job.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And we will get KW on that in the language. Councilors, this is going to move us on to our public hearing sections. And item number 1 under public hearings is a public hearing on an application for a new restaurant liquor license by GMRG ACQ1 LLC, doing business as Pizza Hut, 035949. Located at 80 Gateway Boulevard, Rock Springs, Wyoming, of which we'll take action under new business item number 1. Is there anybody here tonight wishing to speak on this hearing? Anyone? Item number 2, under public hearings, a public hearing on an amendment to Rock Springs zoning ordinances, section 13-819, dining decks, with intent to relocate dining decks requirements to Chapter 6 of the ordinances of the City of Rock Springs, entitled Streets, Alleys, and Sidewalks. That will take action under ordinance 2020-07 and 2020-08. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this public hearing? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to the petition section of our agenda. I would ask anybody wishing to speak to the council on any issue, this is your time to do so. Please come down to the microphone, state your name for the record, make sure the microphone is on, and this is your time. Okay, time's up. RJ, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Mayor Como, Council, my name is RJ Pieper, and most of you know me. I've been around for a long, long time. And I'm here tonight as a small business owner. My wife and I, we purchased new studio photography and framing at 420 South Main Street back in October, and since then we've been continuing the 100-year tradition that has been new studio, and we've been really excited to do that, and we're just getting going with how we want that business to look. I come to you tonight with an opposition to a plan. And with all due respect to Mr. Banks and his URA office, they do a spectacular job of what they do. I am here in opposition to moving the Main Street Market down to Bunning Hall. Frankly, my numbers say that I should absolutely be in favor of this. 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoons, my business dies. I do not have any customers during the Main Street Market. But I don't want to see it go. Moving it reduces the foot traffic we would have had to possibly nothing, which is a normal day for us. Right now, the way it's set up, the trucks park in the middle of the street, all the small vendors park all in front of our businesses, so there's no room for any customers to come in and things like that. So my suggestion is, and I think you'll hear this from other business owners downtown, is that instead of moving it down and putting it in the Bunning Hall there, where yes, there is more parking, yes, there's a little more accessibility. You're really hamstringing us. Who some of us, not myself, have come to rely on that business that comes from that foot traffic, and really, so my suggestion would be to take those trucks, move them to the end of the block at Bank Court and C Street, and shut the entire block down. I'm not going to speak for other businesses, but I think that is your best option. And then put your smaller vendors in the middle and give them a reason to go everywhere on the block. Come into our businesses and browse what we have and what we have to sell. It's frustrating to see something that brings so many people down but brings nobody over into our businesses just move when things can be made that help. And I think by doing that helps people on Broadway who we'll catch people who park on Broadway and walk around the block. That same thing with North Front Street, who walk under the underpass and check out the wonderful art in the Art Underground. And then my last comment on this is it really responsible during a global pandemic right now to put an event that has brought record numbers of attendees inside? I understand it helps with the weather, but is it the responsible thing to do right now? So my suggestion is to use the whole street, the whole block, and give people a reason to come into, or an ability to come into our businesses. I hope we consider that.
Any questions, council? Suggestions?
Mayor, I have a question for Chad.
Go ahead.
Could you elaborate on what your thoughts are with this change?
There are several businesses on South Main Street that are very supportive of the farmers market. There are more vendors or businesses on South Main that are not supportive of the farmers market and don't like it in that location. We're trying to put a positive spin on the relocation, but the real gist of it is it's a constant battle every year of you're taking our parking, you're using our restrooms, and you're taking business away from us. And so this is really the best solution for us. We did originally talk about trying to move the vendors closer to the businesses on South Main and close to Bank Court. That's not feasible because then that requires all the people from Bank Court to E to back out of there. So that means all of South Main would have to be closed, which not only loses all of the spaces where the farmers market is from parking, but it loses another 40 spaces from Bank Court to E Street as well. I think the merchants will have our heads if we close all of South Main Street. And it completely cuts off. Some of them have access. You could walk through Bank Court to get to them. You can park on either end and get to them. It really completely cuts off Coltrane's access entirely if we close, because we can't close it at say noon or 2. It really has to be closed at 8 in the morning, because once people get in there, we're not going to get them out. So like right now, in order to close the one side of the street that we do close, I come down on Wednesday night and put the cones up to keep those people from parking there, or we never get them out.
So my concern is what the other businesses would feel shutting that street down completely. I can't imagine you'd have a lot of agreement to do that.
Right, and Paul may have some insight into the closure and how that could or couldn't work, but.
Your Honor.
Councilman West?
But right now, they're right in front of like Square State and New Studio.
Correct.
And I know I attended a staff meeting yesterday, and we were talking about similar to what you just said, just moving them on the other side of the street where you could still leave the parking spaces in front of those businesses open.
Those are open. Oh, on this far side.
Rather than shutting the whole street down like you were alluding to, rather than having those vendors be right in front of their businesses where their backs are to the storeway or whatever. We were talking about just extending them down more on the north side of South Main so that it'd be closer to the freight station, and so that you still have all that parking available for, you know, people that might be coming in to visit those businesses. Is that not an option? That
there's a couple of problems. The vendors that are on the grass have to stay on that side. If you look on this side, the east side is a lot of trees and bushes and shrubs, so there's not nearly as much space over there, empty space on that side as there is on the left, if you're looking at the depot on the left side versus the right side of the depot. So we can get about 12 vendors on the right side of the depot versus 16 to 18 on the left side.
but some of that, wow. Okay.
My concern is that we try to communicate better, because my biggest concern is it seems like every week we're moving locations and that no one knows where it's going to be, or the vendors especially that have to travel, they probably get extremely confused. But I don't know what the answer is. I don't think you're going to always make everybody happy, as we well know. No good deed goes unpunished, but as much input as we can possibly get for you folks to make an informed decision would be best, and to run with it. I think at this point, for this week, you've told vendors, right? That's what's going to happen.
We told them that it was on the agenda tonight for approval. Correct. Okay. However, I would say I would rather, if we make the decision, if you all approve the decision to move, then I don't want to have to come back in a couple of weeks and tell them, oh, that's just for last week. Now we're going to go back to this. So I think whatever decision we make tonight really has to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that was my point.
I had a conversation with RJ today too, and I mean, that was a concern. If I believe the ad that I read about the move or whatever, there's going to be the food trucks, you know, outside in front of the Bunning Hall, but then vendors would be inside Bunning Hall. So now we're indoors. So now you've got the, you know, limitations from the governor's orders for 50 people or less. Are we just making it more complicated than it needs to be? Obviously, we can't please everyone, but I agree. I don't want to keep changing this, and it seems like it's been there for many years with, you know, some headaches here and there, but I just wonder if we can make a few minor adjustments to it and satisfy everyone. I mean, if I was attending it way down there, I probably wouldn't walk all the way down to these guys' business. And so I see their concern, but you're telling me that other businesses don't like it at all. So
correct.
It's a no-win situation. But I just kind of view it similar to, you know, the parade route, and that's been attempted to be changed in in a few years past, and many businesses rely on that. So now we're totally moving it down to the other side, and does that benefit anyone? So
Chad,
I won't support the move personally.
How do you intend to facilitate the inside portion? Are you'd be able to maintain the separation for the vendors, monitor how many people that we were in there, 50 people?
Markets are precluded from those orders, so we technically don't have to abide by those rules. We do have signs. We have them outside. We'll certainly have them inside, encouraging social distancing, encouraging masks. We do have sanitizer stations. Obviously, it's whoever wants to abide by those is who's abiding by them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I just think
sorry, Mayor.
It's a great opportunity for downtown, and we want to make sure that all of our businesses can capitalize on it and have input to hopefully benefit their businesses also. So I hate to see it go away. Councilman Halter?
How many vendors are on the south side of Main Street?
How many vendors? Mm-hmm. The south. Let me get my bearings.
So the side with all the businesses, how many vendors are lined up along that side of the street?
That's where all of the vendors are.
You mean right now?
There's none on the north side right now?
Mm-mm.
On the west and east side, is that what you mean?
No, so on the side with Coltrane, are there vendors on both sides of the street or just on one side of the street?
Just on one side. We don't close the street. So the trucks line in the middle, all the produce vendors, for instance, the salsa guy, the bakery, Slagowski beef, are in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the other 20-ish vendors are on the grass. Is that what you mean?
Oh, okay, I see. So the business or the vendors that are on the street are just on one side of it, but on the business
Correct.
side.
It essentially shuts traffic down to one lane, really.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so if cars are going
So
both ways.
What is the issue of moving them to the other side of the street?
Closer to the businesses?
No.
No,
Opposite.
opposite side.
I think it disconnects those two. It seems silly, but having worked in the fair for 15 years and dealing with vendors and working with these vendors, if you have the separation of the depot, there's going to be a real separation of that traffic. We could certainly try it. It's going to be a challenge to get the flow between both of those.
Or are you talking just moving them closer north to
Right.
that side of the street?
Yeah, so instead of along the side with the businesses, moving them to the other side of the street.
That's where the challenge, where the trees, which you don't hear this often in Rock Springs, but that's where there's too many trees and
I
shrubs.
haven't been to it for a while, so I don't really
Yeah, that's where there's too many trees and shrubs on that side to move them all on that side.
Okay.
Well, don't cut down any trees. That'll be my next ulcer.
And the challenge for us is, and in defense of the businesses, the whole reason for the market is to bring people downtown.
Right.
I really have no interest in running a farmer's market just to run a farmer's market. If we're not bringing, those 700 people a week or so into those businesses,
So
why are we doing
businesses
that?
complaining that people are using their bathrooms? I mean, they're bringing people in. I think they should take advantage of the opportunity to drum up some business.
One would think. Yeah.
No, some are not so supportive.
But on that opposite side, Chad, you're saying there's trees and stumps and whatever else there. Can't they set up in those parking spaces?
Which is dangerous.
Where you would have both, some in the grass, some in the actual parking space, just like they're
We
doing on
could
the
just
opposite
do the
side?
parking spaces and not do the grass.
Can't have both? Can't set it up that
No,
way?
because you'd have some behind the others. You know what I mean? You'd have somebody in behind. You'd end up with two rows. I should have drawn a. Can we pull up Google?
Chad,
Earth
the
on
way it
that
looks
side?
now is the vendors are right in the middle of the street, right? And then the tables, the booths are set up along the sidewalk there.
Correct.
Can't we flip that around to where they face each other? The businesses and the vendors would face each other, where the traffic would be in between there. And the reason that is because there is a wall there behind
Correct.
the vendors' trailers.
Right.
Where all the traffic is, and so the businesses, like RJ's and Larry's, they're not visible.
Correct. They are hidden back there.
Could we flip those to where they face each other? The trailers park against the curb, and the vendors are in the streets where all the traffic is in the middle.
I think we'd have to keep the trailers in, because then you'd have people with tables in the street and traffic going right next to them. So I think you'd have
Good
to
point.
leave the
That's a great
trailers
point.
in the
No,
middle
that's a great point.
and put the tables along the sidewalk.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I was just looking at how do we increase visibility for our businesses while we do have the folks downtown.
Right.
That's a great point, though. Thank you.
Chad, could you just fix this? We got other stuff to move on to. But.
That's why you all are paid the big bucks. It is not, it's not an easy decision, and this is something that we battle every year that we have this event.
Is it, just a question, because Councilman Halter had a suggestion. I'm trying to see how that would play out. But is it not helpful to be further away from your office, or is that an issue where you're staging out of that, or no? We're
No,
thinking
we just-
about, Councilman Halter said, what about the parking lot on the west side behind the county building, that big parking lot that we have, and then keep the vendors in the green area, I think is what he was saying. But you're still pulling power. You got to bring power from somewhere.
Most of the street vendors don't use power. Trying to think. I don't think many of them plug in. So the power
Oh.
really is for the folks that are on the grass, honestly.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
what I was thinking is keeping the vendors on the grass that want to be on the grass and the ones with the trailers and whatnot, move them to the other side of the coal sign into that parking lot. It does still pull it away, but not nearly as far as the freight station. So you still kind of have that downtown presence, but you would be straddling the Rock Springs coal sign with the vendors.
And people walking through the underpass would come up right in the middle of it.
And so you'd use the parking lot that is the county parking lot or the strip parking lot
strip.
where
The
like
strip.
Pia's park?
The strip.
Yeah, where Pia's park, the
Okay,
strip,
Gotcha. Okay.
which I believe is city.
Do you know how much, Paul, do you happen to know how much? Right now we have about 265 feet, if I remember right, where those trucks park on the street. Do you happen to know how long that is?
I can get it.
We're,
I can measure it. Yeah.
From end to end, it's 290 feet.
Okay, so that would give us enough space.
It's not shaded in any way, but
Neither's the street.
right.
Yeah, street's not. But yeah, that might be good, and then you could possibly put them up against
Against that
back curb
fence.
or something.
Mhm.
But that being said, you do have a few people that park there all day. You'd have to get in there and tell them no parking or
Put cones up.
something, so that'll cause some grief, because it's
Yeah.
gonna be, the PIs they park there, and, but, it's one day out of the
Well, and it's as wide as a street, so you could use just
two
half
on
of
one
it
side.
and then let people park on the other half. It'd be no different than what we're doing in the street right now,
Mm-hmm.
where people park on one side and, because it's both about 53 feet as far as width.
That might be good, because we were talking about coming down, is this C Street? No,
I got it.
B, I think.
B Street? He's
Yeah.
talking about, no, he's talking about coming down here and using C Street, because he's getting too many people, and is closing this and using this portion too, so that'd be more adjacent to it for a place to grow. What's your thoughts about that?
We can try that. I think we have to, like I said, I would like, if we're going to try that, to, this is it for the rest of the
Right.
season.
I totally agree, but at least that'll leave you the green belt to have those vendors stay inside the green belt, like David said, and they wouldn't have to move.
Could we keep it the way it is for a couple more weeks so that you get some more input on that, or do you need something tonight?
I'm here because this is complaint driven, really. So
Right.
we can do it. I mean, I'm perfectly content if we want to just leave it like it is and keep it that way for the rest of the season. But we certainly could leave it a couple more weeks and visit with those merchants, with those truck vendors that park in the street, and ask them what they think about parking over there.
RJ, what's your thoughts
When
about
is your
that?
next? August 1st? 5th?
I think removing the barrier in the middle of the street would be.
Because you'd still keep the vendors in the green area.
Yeah.
The traffic could still be down
I
there.
think the other piece of it is the small vendors who park in front of our businesses and stay there the entire time. Should be asked to park after they've unloaded. Because that's the other.
Okay,
I'll gladly put up with the headache if people. The entire time, just to get a little more.
okay. Any other input, council? So we can move on. I believe we do have a request coming forward, and we can just modify that request number 6 as we get to it.
That's what I was thinking, Your Honor. If we remove the request for placement of the vendors in that now, just past the open container, or is that what we're talking? And then try to see how what others would think about utilizing that parking lot in the coming weeks?
Okay, say that one more time.
Or do you want us to just not move the vendors at all right now?
No, try it, but
Would we try moving them to the parking lot and that's it for the season?
Yeah, I think we could try it.
so we need to amend the actual street closure portion. We can do that when we get there.
Mhm.
And then,
Well, then we wouldn't need a street closure.
right, we just take that off the request.
Do we need permission? No, I don't think we need
No, I don't believe so. That would take that out.
And we won't have to close off all the parking along Depot Park.
Correct. We can revise that. Somebody make a
However,
motion on
isn't
that.
the open container from C Street to Bank Court? So now you'd probably want it from, what, Bank Court to, call it B Street maybe, or, yeah, the underpass.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, B Street. Okay. So we don't need.
Okay. We can deal with that. Thanks, Chad, for your help. Anybody else wishing to address the council on any issue? This is your time to do so.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm Mark Madsen from William H. Smith and Associates here in town, 1515 9th Street. I'm Business Development Director, talking about the Bitter Creek Restoration Project. Number one, thanks for the sewer contract. What I'd like to discuss a bit is, some of the contractual issues that we're assuming are going to be discussed by council. So, especially, just awarding it and sort of some of the information that came out of it. I feel like I should start with the professional services contract conversation. We've had it at Wyoming Engineering Society. For the last 2 years, I've handled all of their legislative work, and I'm also the legislative head for the Contractor Association with 2 others, so it's a tri-chair position. In this professional services contract, it's fair to mention how those work, in that we can't have them solely price-driven, because you need the experience, the talent, the resumes to prove that you can do the job as necessary. So that's why very often when we talk about the legislation, and if you want to read it, it was the latest rounds were House Bills 50, 51, and 52 that dealt with professional service contracts and procurement. So, the legislation is always looking at these with a fairly tight eye. But we understand with professional services contracts that you've got to have the other part. You can't just buy the job, because people can bond the job, but can you provide the service that's required? So that's sort of the quick background, but it's not solely on price. So understand, as we talk about this, I'm not solely talking about price. So you get the professional credentials, you get the resumes, you get this experience. So on the particular project that we're talking about, our competition, there's 2 here. They're amply talented enough to handle this job. William H. Smith, Western Engineers and Geologists, and JFC. So not a concern, everybody's got it. But as it relates to the pricing component of it, it becomes a little interesting, and I think it's just something that we should chew on. We know, and we've mentioned it already in the meeting, we've got seriously devalued fiscal scenario that's going on here, right? So we've got constrained tax revenue. We certainly have the mineral revenue that's going to impact things. The good mayor here was presenting with the auditor on the state of finances, so it was mentioned there just exactly how devastating the tax revenue scenario was. So we all know that we're in for a financial situation that's going to be hard to stomach, really. My uncle was the head of WHAM, George Parks, by the way, so we all know that it's really critical that the cities get that funds. We've lived it. So on these proposals, I just think it's interesting. We are going to be discussing later, you know, you could hire the both of us for the one that you're going to get awarded it to. So that's back to the price, but price doesn't cover all. So I find that the interesting part of the discussion. I just think it's interesting as it relates to there's, you know, millions of dollars of state AML funds involved too. Now, in the RFP, it describes economic efficiency. That's all it said. So let's understand that also. It's laid out economic efficiency, but that's up to you what it means, right? So I guess what my concern here is the discussion on precedence, is what that kind of award is going to make. So I feel like I need to bring up, in the pre-proposal meeting, there was a conversation about design alterations. They weren't requested. We wanted to verify that the existing design still works and hold it to the new specification should there be any changes. We also want to add 200 extra feet on the other side. So there was a component of new design matching pretty much the other design. So that's sort of there. So there's no design alternatives really asked for. As near as we can tell, all the proposals have the same components to them, with the interest of the Good Mayor's Company. I'm not sure if that's fair to say, so let me back up. Maybe not. Let's just say that competition that is going to is being considered for award. They added the cathodic protection of the retaining wall. So there was one component that we didn't include in our proposal, although there's been some discussion that, you know, it's designed, we just need to inspect and make sure that it matches as the requirement. So what I really have here is a suggestion. I was after some information on the scoring of the proposal. Was told that's not public information. And what I think, because I think that the intent is always to be transparent, fair, ethical, so that we all know how these decisions get made. And I would cite just the latest one with our adjoining city, with theirs. They actually supplied the scorecard and showed, you know, where we were showing up. That one was the hydraulics, the storm sewer hydraulics survey, if anybody wants to ask them about it. So we did get scorecards with the competition and the criteria and how it fell out. None of that's available here. I would suggest that we consider something like that always, because that sort of takes this discussion and says this is exactly how we valued it. And I would suggest that as those RFPs are written, requests for proposals are written, that they're more defined so that you can delineate exactly how you're scoring those companies. So really, in conclusion, I just urge you to make this the most transparent, fair, and ethical conversation. And I think it easily can be made from here on out by having more defined RFPs, just so that we all know how we're getting rated, who's doing the rating, and why. And, you know, like I said, the talent's here. All of us can do it, and I think we can all rest easy with that. And with that, I'll stand for any questions, should you have any.
Councilors?
Yeah, Your Honor. So in, just to be clear, in your bid, did you include inspection costs?
Oh, absolutely. So this
certified inspectors?
We have the inspectors, and they're certified. So if you look at one of the things that we were suggesting, and I apologize because I didn't bring this up, was that should engineering or public works have questions about what they were reading, that they could ask for qualifications. But well, I guess the resumes are there, but the inspector is also an engineer and a certified materials tester. So we've got him doing multiples. We've got the hydrologist doing all. You guys know the real intent of this is to remove all these properties from the floodplain. So what an amazing thing. I should mention Governor Mead's press secretary looked over my shoulder while I was doing the proposal and said, "Holy, that's still going, you know, so David Bush, even in Cheyenne, they're talking about this project, so congratulations to everybody if you can get this going. But yeah, you know, so we've got the civil covered, the hydrologist covered. On the cathodic protection, it was defined, we know we can inspect that. I can't answer it. If there's an electrical inspection certification, I can't answer it. I don't know. I'd have to ask and get back to you, Councilman Green.
Okay, and one last question. So was your proposal, when you submitted that proposal, did it meet the criteria called out by the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA and all the requirements within the RFP?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got, I guess I have some. Let me gather here. And I think, I don't know, I guess as good time as any is, we're going to talk about this at one point in the meeting. We should do it now. Looking at this, and I would have to agree with you on transparency in how this is done. The rubric that's used, the scoring that's done, I do believe it's only right that those are made public and people know where they fall within a bid. And then to be able to call and ask a general question, why did we fail this? What can we do to improve? I'm not looking for specifics or anything like that, but just generalizations, hey, maybe more experience in this area or something like that, or maybe you're subbing out too much work, we don't feel comfortable with that, or anything, any one of those things. There's ways to explain, yes, this is what you could do to maybe make your proposal stand out a little bit more, maybe make you successful into the future. So I do agree, and it's been something that I've had concern about for a while, is just the transparency within our process. So I do think we need to work on that. Too, when we look at this, and I'm just going to go from the beginning of where I started here, we get a calls, hey, this is the bid, this is what turned out. You might get some calls of people concerned of what happened, and sure enough, I get calls. And why, how'd the bid go? What's the process was really the first call. And, you know, I said, let me find out. I know how the process goes. I want to be 100%, so let me talk to engineering, which I did. I met with Paul, and he outlined what the process is. We appoint a committee for any project, and the committee's changed based on the project and who's involved in what departments. The committee is given the RFP and the bids, and then they're given a rubric to grade upon. And different things within that are weighted differently. So we give a score and then multiply it by whatever the weight is. We add those scores together. That's the total score for that particular proposal. All 5 committee members, we add those up, divide them, we get the average for the score. Then there's a component in there, which I like, is we'll add and try to do our best to kind of spread the wealth, so to speak, and where we try to do what we can to let contractors get jobs, where we're not using just one consulting firm all the time. We're going to base and give some points based off of how much work did each consultant have with the city or during a 4-year period. What dollar amount did they have? For example, if a firm has done no work for the city in the last 4 years, they'll get an additional 4 points. If you've done $0 to $150,000, you get 3 points, up to $300,000, 2 points, up to $500,000, 1 point, and $500,000 or more, 0. And then they add that, and that's your final score. So to me, the process, I think, is fair. I think it's a good process, a solid process. What came out when it was released, the bid amount, and then finding that we're looking at a difference in bid, the highest bid of $520 with the recommendation to pass, and then the next lowest bid at $246 and another at, I think, $184, somewhere around there. So as you said, you know, you could hire 2 for the price of, less than the price of 1 for this project. That's where the question comes in, okay, where are we here? Did the 2 lower bids miss something in the RFP? Is something missing, something not addressed? What happened? And so that's where my questions come in. What's the difference? What are we getting here for that extra money, for $250,000? And I don't know that I've really had an answer to that. You know, there's Other services are provided. Let's see. Surveying wasn't included in 2 of those bids, but that was an option within the RFP, and that only accounts for basically $20,000. Multiple inspectors, 2 of the bids did list and did state that they would provide multiple inspectors. One actually named the specific people who would be inspecting. Subcontract cost was one. I think there was an assumption made that a majority of subcontract costs would be done, or majority of the work would be done by a subcontractor. After asking about that, I find that wasn't accurate. Only about 10% of the work would be done by the subcontracting firm. There was concern with CLOMR, which is the floodplain mapping, and please help me with CLOMR, what that means, but CLOMR. Conditional letter of map revision.
Right.
Okay. But that's all part of the FEMA and everything else, and basically my understanding is that is a letter stating we are going to do this work to this area, and FEMA knows, and so floodplain issues can be addressed and everything else. And there, certain firms don't have surveyors on staff, but so okay, if that's it, if we're looking at the inspectors, I don't see the multiple inspector thing, because it looks like there are multiple inspectors all around. Subcontract cost and the inspection service of $20,000, I still struggle in getting an answer as to what justifies the city spending an additional $250,000. And as of tonight, right now, I can vote no and be 100% confident in my vote no, because I don't have justification to spend that money. If I vote yes and someone asks me, why did I do that? I don't have an answer for them, and that's what's concerning to me. So I think, and it's going to be my suggestion, that we at least table this, because I think some further work needs to be done here to find out what are we getting for our money. So just to say we've got some additional services, but I can't really truly identify those additional services, and in my mind, $250,000 pays for a heck of a lot of additional services, and I just haven't seen where that is right now. So that's where I am. That's what I found. Does anybody else have any comment or anything they'd like to add?
Yeah, I do, Your Honor.
Councilman West.
Since we're getting into it, I'll just go ahead and get started. But I agree with a lot of what Rob said, and I've met with Paul and tried to understand this process a little bit better. And I think that's part of the issue, is the process. And I'm not disagreeing with the rubric and the selection committee. I think there's some talented individuals on there. But what I struggled with is we didn't have any of that information. So we had the recommendation from the selection committee, obviously for our resolution tonight to approve it to the company at task here. But we have nothing else. Was not aware of what other companies even bid it, what their prices were, the rubric, how it scored. I mean, nothing. And so I think as a governing body, we need to maybe do better at that. I know there's the concern about it being a public document. I understand all that. I think that's a state statutory thing, a state statute thing for competitive edge or whatever you want to call it. But I still think we can be forwarded that information in a private email, no different than anything with, confidential by law that we sometimes deal with, where we can at least justify making a decision on that and know the facts of, I didn't even know there was that big of a price difference on it. So we didn't get that information until about 24 hours ago, and so now we're faced with trying to compile all this and make comparisons on it. And I just think that we should be involved with that. We're the ones that are elected to represent the people, and basically we're just taking the suggestion from the committee, and I value their input, and I know that they're the experts there. But I think the governing body should have more involvement with that. So I think that's something that we need to fix at the city level, and probably take into consideration some of your suggestions with, areas that you might be able to improve and things of that nature. So that's my 2 cents for now.
Mr. Mayor.
Do we have another, Councilman Schlada?
Yeah, I'd just like to know why
were the bids not opened in front of everybody? Why do we, professional services, I thought maybe you can answer this, Paul, because if we had 3 bids or 4 bids, and they, like we do in the past, if we buy vehicles or something, these bids come in and they're closed bids, and they're opened by the Mr. President of the council, and then handed to the mayor, and that's provided to the council. Then we go back and give those to the department head to review those, and then they come back with a recommendation. So we have an idea what the bids were, what the prices were, and I'm not sure why this wasn't presented to us that way also.
Well, Your Honor, Counselor Shalata, these aren't bids. You know, by state statute, we don't even have to, I guess, go through this RFP process. Years ago, the city decided to follow an RFP process to procure consultant services. Part of that was that I think, you know, contracts were just handed to whoever individuals wanted. They wanted a more competitive type system. But they have never been opened as regular bids because they're not bids, they're proposals. And it's always been done by the same selection committee. The selection committee analyzes them, ranks them, and then makes a recommendation to the council. But we have never, I guess, publicly opened proposals because they're not analyzed just solely on cost. There is a combination of criteria that they're evaluated on, and it does not come down to solely cost. So you can't open a proposal and say, okay, they bid, because it's not a bid.
Thank you. I didn't know.
Any other questions? Mark, appreciate that. And I would say also, I'd reiterate what you said with Councilor West and Zadi. I think some more information is helpful. We see this all the time. It's helpful to know what you did right, what you did wrong, and how to be better the next time. But it's also good for the council to have some information when they have to make decisions and answer questions.
Your Honor, just as a note, any consultant that has ever called my office and asked if I or one of my staff members could go through the proposal with them and let them know what the committee thought of their proposal, how it could be improved, we have always done that with them. We have never, now have we provided them other consulting firms' proposals? No. Have we provided them with the actual scoring sheets? No. But have we told them, no, we're not going to talk to you about your proposal? We always have, just to make that clear.
Thanks, Paul. And I know we've done the same, and you win some, you lose some, and you try to better yourself. But you can't easily just make a call and find out where you went wrong or what you did right. And I appreciate that. We're still under petitions. Anyone else wishing to address the council on any issue?
Hi, I'm Larry Hickerson, representing Square State tonight. Been a while since I saw y'all. Came down for the same reason, concerned about the effect the farmers market move would have on our business. I know you guys have a mostly thankless job, so after hearing that discussion, I just want to thank everybody for getting to work quick and making something a little more amiable for everybody.
Thanks, Mr. Hickerson. Hopefully this works out well, and we can appease the vast majority. Chad Banks will be losing his hair soon. Oh. Sorry. Still under petitions, anyone else wishing to address the council on any issue? This is your time to do so. State your name for the record.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, my name is John Edens with JFC Engineers and Surveyors. I just wanted to let you know how we approached this project and how we came up with our proposal and subsequently our quote. We went through the proposal and we did our very best due diligence on addressing every item in the proposal, plus we know as professionals what needs to be done to meet the goals of the project with the conditional letter and map revisions, so at some point in time that fulfills the goal of the project. The RFP was very clear that the construction administration costs were a not to exceed cost. That means that we do not get halfway through that project and we're out of money, and we have to come knock on your door again for a change order to cover those costs. So, and that's a slippery wicket to quote that, because you're quoting that before the contract docs are put together, the duration of the project's not known. So we did similar to what the others did, I think, and we took a project duration of 10 months, full-time inspection with a qualified engineer, EIT, that was tooled up with the ability to test concrete, test densities, knew what was going on, not a summer hand, but a qualified, EIT. So that's how we came up with that. And that's where I think probably the biggest difference in cost is. I've done this business for 30-something years, and based on that experience, construction administration is going to run about somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 10% of the construction cost. So, take a $4.5 million project, 10% is $450,000. So I don't think that our quote's out of hand. I think you'll get the quality and a successful completion of the project based on that. And we won't be back at the door asking for a change order to cover costs. We'll follow that project through completion. So I just wanted to make that clear. There are about, I can't remember for sure, but 10 criteria in selecting consultants, and the last one is price. And I firmly feel we put forth a very qualified team in Hanson Allen Luce, JFC, the others involved in the project on Landlord for the landscape. We all worked on the same project in the first concept, so we know what's going on. So I appreciate that, and I thank all of you in advance for your consideration, and I can almost guarantee you this project will be brought to successful completion, so thank you.
Any questions from the council? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Still under petitions, anyone else wishing to address the council on any issue?
A bathroom break?
Excuse me?
A bathroom break? Does that count?
Not unless it's needed. Is it needed?
I'll figure it out. If I get up and leave, you know what?
You're gonna have to wear masks and diapers from this point on. No, feel free if you need to get up. Any other petitions? Hearing none, I'm going to close the petitions section of our agenda, and we can, if need be. Would you guys like to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
We will take a 5-minute break. Anybody who needs to use the restroom, keep in mind that if you go to the restroom, there's a sign on the door. You have to maintain 6 feet separation, wear your mask in the lobby, and take turns. So with that, we'll take a 5-minute break.